Every city, I believe, should always start in a double-wide trailer. It's the most humbling experience in the world.
Good evening, everyone. We begin this Friday night at 12
You'll never believe how hard it is to get your little city, Maricopa, on a weather map on Channel 12. you would think that's easy, but it's not.
We dodged a bullet. We really did, because the county's vision for Maricopa would have been carports, not garages, tack and seal roads, not asphalt roads, and would have looked a totally different character than what we have today.
It takes partnerships with ADOT, it takes partnerships with the state, it takes partnerships with the developers. The city doesn't tell businesses which businesses are coming, it takes businesses to say they want to come. If you're not working those partnerships, it makes it even that much more difficult.
It was the developer that went over and above and beyond and said, no, we're not going to do what the county's requiring. We're going to bring quality to Maricopa. Big kudos to Mike Ingram, Monty Ortman, and Eldorado Holdings for their foresight on the type of developments.
During the building boom, a city sprang almost spontaneously from the desert. As home prices rocketed in Phoenix, the buyer's motto became, drive until you can afford it. And that place was Maricopa.
I formed an incorporation committee in August of 2002 of 24 committee members. And 13 months later, we were Arizona's 88th municipality. I mean, that alone, to think about that is just mind-boggling.
Tony and I had moved here before it incorporated, and I would say from the get-go, people are like, this is going to change the city. It's not going to be community-oriented anymore. It's been going on for 20 years, and here we are, 70,000 plus people, and it's still very community-oriented, and that's what the people love about it.
We are going to have a vision. We're going to become something that we want to become, even though we can't see it today. And we're going to get there, and we're just going to put one foot in front of the other, and we're never going to give up, and we're just going to do it. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it. And every day we're going to get a little further and a little further, and we're going to look back in 10 or 20 years, and we're going to say, we did it.
The developers bought this ground in the 80s with the intention to build, these single-family communities. We're just a bunch of farm guys, growing cotton, whatever, and decided to become a city. And we tried to incorporate, but we didn't have enough people per state statute to incorporate. Once they started building houses and people moved in, then that opportunity arose. And by the seat of our pants, doing 800 permits a month, fastest growing city in the country, a lot of eyes on us. We took that leap of faith.
I knew nothing about politics. I wasn't into politics. I didn't watch politics. I didn't like politics. I didn't want anything to do with politics. I was looking for a situation to where we could get control of our own destiny. The thought of being unincorporated and with all this growth that was on the horizon, and knowing that Pinal County, being in Florence, the seat in Florence, 65 miles away, controlling our destiny, bothered me.
So we became a city 2003. What do we do next? Codes, ordinances, public safety. We contracted with Pinal County for a police service. We had the fire district to take care of the fire stations. We were paving almost 2 miles of road a week, 800 permits per month. We didn't have a city hall per se. We had one little trailer. The back of my Tahoe was the planning and zoning office with all the plans and engineering. There was a lot to do.
Well, it was a pretty quiet road. We didn't have this much traffic. Day one, I show up to City Hall. It's in a dirt parking lot in a trailer with no staff in it. It's just the city manager that was there at the time and myself. We could see fields for as far as your eyes can see. Once I started working for the city and I got to see the ins and outs of how a city will grow, and I got to see all the plans that were coming in and the businesses that were thinking about coming in, it was just that excitement. Hey, we're getting a Fry's, we're getting a Bashas', and then when we got Walmart, it was like, whoa, we're getting Walmart, like we're big time.
First city council meeting, first two items of the agenda was to introduce the city council, okay, the founding city council, which the board of supervisors selected. So the next two items on the agenda was to elect a mayor and to elect a vice mayor. So the council elected me, the founding mayor, and Brent Murphy, the vice mayor. And I'll never forget that. They gave me the gavel, and we're like, now what do we do? We've worked our butts off for the last 13 months and we did it. Yay. Now what? we had no clue.
Early on in 2004, we only had one subdivision, primarily it was Rancho El Dorado. But then come 2006, when we were just booming, the whole state was booming building, but Maricopa primarily, we were one of the top 10 in the state, in the country, that was building the most homes. People wanted to come to Maricopa because of the affordability. It was much more affordable to live in Maricopa than it was in the valley, and they could get a lot more home for their buck. I mean, we would have people lined up at the model homes, waiting for their lottery ticket so that, because they would have a raffle on who was actually gonna get a home. So they didn't even care which home it was. They didn't care what model it looked like. We never had any homes available because as soon as the lottery would open up, people would come, they get their ticket, they got a house, and they built.
We were riding high. When we incorporated in 03, there was a 2-year period, and this is a true story. There was a 2-year period, 24 months, where we were averaging 800 new home building permits a month.
We begin tonight with the story of one town that surged on the back of the mortgage boom and has tumbled after the bust. It's happened all over America these last few years, but Arizona has been hit especially hard.
Drive just about any street in Maricopa and you'll see them. Houses with weeds taking over the lawn, the driveway, an abandoned swimming pool. Real estate signs say short sale, selling for less than the mortgage, and bank owned. People are leaving every day. As interest rates ratcheted up and values dropped, people started to turn in their keys and disappear.
It was ugly. There was 20 to 25% of those 10 to 12,000 homes were vacant. People were leaving their keys to their house on the kitchen counter and just walking out the door and leaving. That's how bad it was. But that was America. That wasn't just Maricopa.
The recession technically had already hit, but we hadn't really felt the impact of it yet. But just soon after my taking office in June of 2008, the realization had hit.
We had to reduce our staffing, we had to reduce our expenses. Everything had to be considered because of the fact that the revenues just weren't the same.
It was your friends, it was the people you went to church with. There were parents who their children were losing their home, and what do you do? What we were doing was turning over about a third of our population about every so many months based on whether or not they were getting a house, losing a house, etc. So we saw that all happen.
We got a national spotlight on that, and it was a negative spotlight. Everything was so right up until that point. Now we gotta go to reality. The honeymoon's done, okay? And reality set in, all right?
My street was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal at one point saying bubble burst, and every other house, the entire street except for mine, was for sale. Or foreclosed or whatever. There was nobody that lived there practically. It was a ghost town. And yet, when I look back on it, I think it prepared us for what was to come in saying, well, if we can make it through that, we can make it through anything. So let's take these challenges full bore, let's hit them head on, and we're gonna conquer it.
After the impact of the recession, what we saw is some businesses, but reimagined. Prior to the recession, it was certain restaurants that were coming into these lots, certain businesses. After the recession, it was a smaller version of that business or a completely different business. Some of those lots were sold to different businesses, so we were seeing commercial being built, but at a slower pace. A couple of the developers, they started picking up again. They still own those properties. Those subdivisions were still platted, so they were ready to pick back up. They started building again, but not at the pace that we saw in 2006.
It was in this community. The community never gave up. You know, like you said, it went back to those floods, those nasty feedlot fires. It just made this community strong. And it made all of us strong, and no, nobody ever gives up around here, that's for sure.
Well, I think the challenges were to identify what is Maricopa. We always said, why not Maricopa?
During my time, a lot of folks were, I think, satisfied that we were going to be a bedroom community. And a lot of people might still consider us a bedroom community. But I was never satisfied with that concept because it's unsustainable.
To sit back and look at this city 20 years later and everything that's been done as far as creating that quality of lifestyle is amazing. The milestone in the whole deal is no doubt the grade separation. When we incorporated, the very first meeting we had as a council, we knew that railroad crossing was going to be an issue. We knew that if we didn't tackle that immediately, it was going to separate our city. It was going to literally separate our city in half.
I don't remember how often we had trains pass by, but it was something like every 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes, it literally stopped traffic on 347. There's no way any businesses would consider coming south of Maricopa. In the morning, if you were stuck behind Amtrak, or in the evenings, if you were stuck behind Amtrak, you could be there 30 minutes plus. So with the overpass, it allowed the two sites to connect, and it allowed for further growth south of here.
The amount of blood, sweat, toil, and tears that went into how do we get this impossible task to save people's lives and create a united city for the first time. I mean, I can't tell you how many times realtors would come and say, oh, Maricopa's fantastic, just don't ever buy south of the tracks. I knew it would change everything, but most importantly, it would save lives. But it did exactly as we suspected it would. And so as we went through all of the meetings and came up with stakeholders and created a new path and a new way by which even the state of Arizona to this day says if you want your job or project done, you better follow the Maricopa formula. You better follow the Maricopa way is what it was called, and it is called to this day. to see it completed in my tenure and to drive on it and to see the changes that it's created, even in the first 5 years since it's been done, property values go up, economic development's gone through the roof, hospitals are coming, and they're all happening because that overpass no longer allows the city to be divided. That's magnificent, magnificent.
Some of the best stories that when I was mayor and people would come into the office, one of the easiest things to talk is just, well, where did you come from, what area, and how did you get to Maricopa? Oftentimes the stories would start, well, my son or my daughter moved to Maricopa and now I'm following them, or it's they are living in Maricopa and now their son or daughter or their family are coming to live with them. And I got to reflecting on that and thinking, if we didn't have something special going here, you wouldn't invite family to come and share that experience with you. And it always just gave me, oh, okay, we're on the right track here if we have families wanting to unite in Maricopa.
When people are moving to something that's brand new, they can make their mark. Whether it's Little League, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, food bank, they can really make an impact. And I think that lends itself to those who want to be part of something. They don't want to be mayor, they don't want to be on the council, they want to be the school board, they want to be able to help in some way. And so there's all those opportunities that are here, and the resources for them to get involved are immense. Whereas if they'd have been home in Chicago or San Diego, they're like, where do we start?
You look at the life cycle of a city, we are in a very special time of life because not many people get to come and make something out of nothing. Pull an entire city out of the ground from farmland, see it go from 1,200 people to 70, 75,000 people almost overnight. That is a synapse in time that is amazing, and we get to live it firsthand.
Most people that live here, they see this as a place of great community where they can make friends. This sense of, I know my neighbor, I can be out in the front yard and say hello. And we have many opportunities to bring our folks together, and I think that people really enjoy that. If you have a dream and you want to make something happen, whether that be a small business, a large business, a nonprofit, whatever that dream is, to own a piece of property, to live in the city of Maricopa and have your own home, I feel like you can make it happen here in the city of Maricopa. There are many people who would help you reach that dream. So I think the American dream is the city of Maricopa.